All right. I think,
Hello.
I think we're live.
All right.
All right. So, hello, everyone who is joining us or will be joining us shortly. I think we're now live on Twitter and the Comic Book Yeti YouTube page. But this is one of the hosts of the Cryptid Creator Corner podcast, Jimmy Gasparo, and I am here with several members of different creative teams for an anthology that's currently on Kickstarter, Amongst the Stars. And I am here with CJ Hudson from Band of Bards, Chris Benamati, Damien Becton, Miranda Leyson, and Ben Humeniuk. We were going to be joined by Travis B. Hill, but he got scared. He may be joining us later, so we'll have to see. So I'm very excited to talk to everybody, and we'll record this so you can share it around once the episode's done. But I'm very excited to talk to everyone about this project. It's a comics anthology, science fiction and romance, 14 stories, 40 different creators. I think a total of about 110 pages, and just some really, really fascinating ideas. So I want to kind of dive right in and start, because I think CJ, I think you and it was Elise Russell who kind of had this idea together. Is that what happened? Why don't you tell everybody about how Amongst the Stars came to be? Let's start there.
That's exactly right. Elise and I, who's been kind of a good comics friend for a while, we were just talking about, hey, let's work on something together. And Elise loves anthologies. And we said, let's run an anthology. And we kind of just shot around some ideas. I said, what sounds fun is a romance hybrid. Why don't we do something with romance? People do erotic all the time. People do different types of anthologies, but just romance seemed just a little too bland. So we said, let's hybrid it up. Let's do it with science fiction. Let's invite Brent Fisher and Fellhound, and we'll kind of build an anthology around them to show people that we're serious, for one thing, and get people to submit. And we thought it'd be fun just to do an open submission call rather than inviting all of our friends. But of course, how it turned out is there was a lot of people that we knew that are really good fucking writers and really talented artists that submitted that we kind of already knew in a lot of ways. And we're like, oh, wow. Like it kind of worked out that way, that we kind of knew some people. I think Ben and I already followed each other. Damien and I already did, Miranda. So I was familiar with probably half of the people already. We didn't let that interfere with our decisions, though. It just so happens they're really good at pitching and really know how to tell good stories. So we're very happy with the result. Ultimately had 140 people submit, narrowed that down to like a semifinalist and then a finalist decisions. And here we are, narrowing it down to 14 talented teams, 110 pages of content, and ultimately knowing that we couldn't do this alone, we went and talked to Chris and Tim from Band of Bards and pitched it hard to them. They actually made us pitch, which is kind of bullshit. That they, you guys need to pitch this to us, and we were like, what? So no, but it all worked out, and we're really excited to be on Kickstarter. It took about a year to get everything up and running. A couple of hiccups along the way. Elise had to bow out for personal reasons, unfortunately, but we've had some other people kind of come in and pick up the slack. This is like my fifth interview on this thing, so we're like really trying to market it. But that's kind of the genesis of it.
And so, did you have a lot of oversight or editorial control in terms of once the stories got started, or did you once you accepted the pitches and had the teams put together, did you kind of let them run?
Very light editing, just some things that I called out in the review process, very minor tweaks. These guys, they're all professionals. They know how to tell good stories. The pitches really sold it to me. And there was just some things that I might have said, oh, maybe, I think I recommended one team to add one page, because they said, this would really actually benefit from maybe one more page at the end, kind of a big splash, I think was what I recommended, to show Siegfried's art, because he's an amazing artist. And I felt like there was just one thing that would have helped at the end. That was probably the biggest change I recommended, but otherwise not much. I mean, they were just masterful in their pitches and they're fantastic artists. So once you get to that point of getting everything combined, I kind of just let everybody run with it, and it looks amazing.
Awesome. That's great. I wanted to, Ben, I wanted to ask you, with your story, I believe is called the Lawson Criterion,
Right.
actually uses the phrase "amongst the stars" in it. Was that a lot of pressure to really have that phrase, like the whole anthology hanging on that?
It was kind of presumptuous because I included it in the dialogue after pitching. I was like, well, maybe I could do it, and who knows? I may not be the only one who uses it in the story. Maybe that's our secret like pass through there. But CJ and Elise didn't say no, so it's in there for right now. But
I thought it was a really good story, and I love Ben's art. So I was like, it's a perfect balance of different type of artists. And so it was very challenging to not continue to push Ben's story further and further along in the finalist process. And Damien's was already done. And as soon as we saw the art, we were like, oh man, like this is pretty great and a really good story. So it was tough. And I've been a fan of Miranda's for a long time. So it was challenging. Like, you know, I always like to say talent is like a bell-shaped curve. Like, you know, you're going to get some really crappy stories submitted, you know, and then you're going to get a lot of really good ones and you're going to get some fantastic ones. We were further towards the fantastic side on a lot of things than I anticipated. There were a number of stories that could have been in here, but they just didn't complement the anthology enough to make the cut, because we might have had something that was similar to Ben's or similar to Damien's or similar to Miranda's that just didn't make as much sense to put in there because we already had those stories, and maybe Damien's was just a little bit more of what we were looking for. But it just opened our eyes to how talented the indie comics sphere is. There's a lot of really good people out there.
Did you have an idea of the type of stories you thought you would get earlier on, or did like kind of the theme of it come together as you saw what folks were pitching?
Yeah, we kept it really broad. We're like, you just stick with the idea of love and sci-fi, whatever you really make that out to be, go for it. And people went all over the place with it. You know, people had some celestial bodies, like kind of having intercourse in space. So it didn't go with the prompt exactly as what we wanted, but we were like, oh, that's interesting. But I already had celestial bodies in my story that I was pitching. And I'm like, I'm the curator, damn it. I get to keep my story in here. So, you know, everything, it just kind of came around organically in that I looked at the pitch and I thought, does it make sense? Am I hooked with the pitch? Did they include concept art along with it, which is always a plus if people go that extra mile? Miranda did. Damien already had the complete story that he sent. Ben did. So that always helps too, to get a visual. It wasn't required, but it really helped in the idea. And then can they tell the concise story along the way? You know who did a fantastic pitch is Doug Wood. He's a really good pitcher. He told the story in a specific log line that was really captivating, and it piqued my interest right away. And then as I read the story, he gave me all the necessary details, but he didn't tell me the history of the universe. He just kept it all in there and kept my interest piqued the entire time. And I was like, Doug's a really good pitcher. And I already knew Doug. He was one of the first guys that I had followed from that Phoenix Comic Collective. So I already knew it, and I tried not to let it skew. Like I said, we didn't blind anything, but I was like, man, it's hard not to pick Doug's story. This is really good. And the art that came along with it was just fantastic. So that's kind of an idea, you know, like, and I liked to provide feedback to anybody that wanted it. I told them that if anybody submitted and you want feedback, I felt like it was important to let people know so they didn't feel like they wasted their time and couldn't make improvements. Very few people took us up on it. I think only 3 people. And we let them know what we felt like they could improve on. And largely it was the pitch. It just wasn't quite there. I didn't know what the story was about really. And that's where it struggled for me. And I couldn't even get it with the elongated story. Like it was too long and it was too confusing. But not everybody took us up on it. And I was kind of surprised by that, because me as a creator, I love getting feedback and want to know what I can do better the next.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I agree. Yeah, Doug's story is with Frederica Manson.
Yep.
And Marta Gasparoni, The Long Meadow Road.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty cool.
It's a great
Miranda,
story.
so I wanted to turn to you. Your story in it with Linz McLeod, implantation. Kind of, how did the two of you come together for the pitch in terms of like putting it together? Like, what was your overall approach to that type of story? And were you excited by the prospect of like a romance and science fiction combined?
Yeah, I was super excited by it. I met Linz to pitch for this, actually. Elise introduced us, so this was the first thing we've worked on together. And it's actually, I
That's
think
awesome.
I think it was her first comic script also. So she sent me her original idea was a short story, so she sent me that and I read it. And then I was like, if this was a comic, what would I picture it as? And so I just drew some layouts and I sent them back, and we went back and forth like that a few times. And the romance aspect is interesting because I'm actually a romantic. So I don't draw a lot of romance. So I was like, I'm really interested to see how I can do that because it's a totally different way of drawing like bodies interacting. So we were just kind of having fun with it. We were just playing. I actually forgot that we'd submitted. And then she was like, we made it in. And I was like, oh, yeah, we did. Great.
It's funny how those things kind of happen. It's so interesting that you kind of like came together for this pitch, and then
Yeah.
now your story's in it. That's awesome.
Yeah. We only even got to talk to each other twice because she's in Scotland and I'm on the West Coast here. So we're like totally different. I'm awake when she's asleep, and it's wild.
Did
Do you
she
find
try?
it is easy? No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, did you try any Scottish phrases when you were talking to Linz? Were you like, "Oh, there's a Donny Brog blowing down the whatever"? I don't know. Yeah, I can't even
Yeah.
pull that.
I definitely did a little bit because I'd been to Scotland before. I went backpacking through there, so I was like poking fun because I knew the location she was from, which was nice. The 2 times we got to meet, I really got to make fun of the fact that she's Scottish, which I guess she didn't hate because she kept talking to me.
And so Damien, your story, is it my iPad just went black. A Higher Calling?
Yeah, Higher Calling, yes, sir. It's I mean, it initially started as if you don't know, it's a prequel to my comic Worlds Away. So my
Also,
initial plan was to
very good.
Was to have a free web comic to try to get everyone on board. And then I saw the Amongst the Stars anthology open up. I said, this is the perfect opportunity to get more eyes on it. It just happened to, come out almost a year later after Worlds Away came out. But it's all good because I was so stoked. I remember tweeting CJ and Elise saying, because I already submitted, and I said once I submitted, I had like butterflies in my stomach, and I was so nervous because I'm still relatively new to the indie comic scene. But I was very, very nervous, and I was just crossing my fingers the whole time. And then when they let everyone knew who got accepted, and I was part of it, I was really, really excited. But it was fun to do. I got to give a shout out to Marco Del Forno and Stony Williams. They do a lot of the heavy lifting because they are extremely talented artists, and they just conveyed everything. I always give shout outs to the artists because they're like I said, they're so great, and they just turned what I had in my brain into something even better than I could ever imagine. So shout out to Marco, shout out to Stony, shout out to Reed too, the letterer, who did an amazing job. Because some of the letters in there, there aren't any captions. It's just but check it out if you guys haven't seen it, or because there's some previews online on Twitter. But they're all extremely talented, and I'm grateful I was able to work with them.
Yeah, I was going to say, in terms of Reed's lettering, I absolutely love the lettering in the story, Higher Calling. I love how it's kind of like free form. I love how it kind of seems like, almost a journal entry that's like, from the future written back about looking over those events. And yeah, the artwork is phenomenal. And how it acts as, a prequel to Worlds Away.
Yeah, and they're all good dudes. They're all good people to work with. But like I said, I just can't shout them out enough. And shout out to CJ, shout out to Chris, shout out to everyone. They've all been extremely kind. Sorry for cutting you off, Jimmy.
Oh no, you're fine. I'm trying to herd cats essentially with so many people here, but we're doing pretty good. We're doing pretty good so far. It's only happened like once or twice. Chris, I'm not punishing you by just having you, in the corner of my screen there.
So yeah, it's okay.
You're a Bills fan. You've been punished
Yeah,
enough.
I got a couple pairs of glasses.
So
they let me down this year, but what can you do?
I was rooting for them.
Hey, they let me down for at least we're in the playoffs. They let me down for 17 years before that and no playoffs. So
yeah, and they made the Band of Bards logo, right? Like it was Bills for a while. That was good.
I'm gonna get sued for that probably. So
yeah, probably.
I put it on. Listen, I put it on a T-shirt to wear around at cons this summer, and we're doing Nickel City, which is the hometown Buffalo one. So I'm hoping that people will just be like, "Oh, we'll buy your things just because you have the shirt."
Heck yes. So, yes.
And no cease and desist yet. So.
Well, and now you know that Stable Diffusion won't scrape it to put in their database because it's got the copyright stuff.
I mean,
so
you got to steal somebody else's stuff to prevent your stuff from getting stolen.
Is that how it is?
Big brain stuff right there for real.
So look, when you were approached, when CJ and Elise, come to you to Band of Bards with this type of pitch, like, what were you thinking in terms of what it was you wanted to do with this, why you wanted to kind of like get on board and publish this type of anthology? What was that conversation like with you and Tim?
I saw, well, they did the call for submissions like right after we did like From the Static. So, we noticed that and I wanted to, kill them. No. I thought it was funny. I was like, "Oh, okay. Well,
let's cut the live feed now, Chris."
Yeah, don't. I'm gonna start swearing. No, I thought it was a great idea, and in fact, like when they had started talking about it on Twitter back when Twitter worked, and you could see stuff. I was actually thinking, oh, maybe I'm pitching to them a story, So I didn't tell CJ this or release this, but I had a little idea, but I life gets in the way and nothing happens. So I'm glad I didn't take up a spot though, because there's so many good teams on this that, I would have been completely disappointing. But did I just trail off? I just trailed off.
A little bit. I mean, it works with the basement motif you have going. So
I'm a basement dwelling caveman apparently, and this has been my life for like 3 years. So what can I do? My house, I don't have a very big house, so it's everything's down here. I do day job stuff down here, and then I do Band of Bards stuff down here right next to it. So basically, if I'm not working, and I hope that no one at my actual work hears this, but I slide over and do other work.
I think that is a relatable perspective.
Everyone does it now, right? It's kinda,
Yeah, I think that's how it has to be. Especially folks that are working from home and have other things going on.
Well, everything goes up in price in capitalism, late stage capitalism, and
you're just saying buzzwords now, Chris.
I know, I'm trying really hard. Hopefully the algorithm picks it up. It's like, oh man, he said capitalism. Let's stick the dogs on him.
Anything we can do to get those retweets.
Let's do some retweets. It's capitalism, man. We need people to back this, and let's make it happen. So capitalism, you know?
So in terms of an anthology about science fiction and romance, I was going to ask, has anyone here done anything particularly like romantic? Did anyone pull from like real life scenarios? I was thinking about this last night, and I was trying to think, to ask, like, what's the most romantic thing for folks, whether or not it's traditional romance or however you define the word, that you've done. And I thought, oh, what if somebody turns it on me? So I went downstairs and I'd asked my wife, I'm like, what's the most romantic thing you think I've ever done?
Smart man.
And
Yeah.
she was like, when you proposed. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, but that was like 16 years ago. have I done anything romantic since then? And she said, well, once you put both kids to bed and then you came downstairs and didn't try and touch me. So that was my wife's definition of romance.
Hey man, there's some wisdom happening. That is wise.
So I don't. Is anyone else in terms? We're talking about an anthology, science fiction, and romance. Does anyone draw on anything in real life? Anyone have a particularly?
I think if I don't want to take up everyone else's time, but to kind of also answer the previous question I was asked that I didn't answer.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that I liked most about the pitch was, they get there's the overreaching arc of romance in space, but then they let the teams decide what they wanted to do and how they interpreted that. So when Tim and I heard the stories, it was an easy decision to make, to say, well, this is going to be awesome because you're getting all these different points of view and all these different types of people together to come up with stories and art that symbolize what they see is it's their interpretation of what that is. So I think if we get the chance to finish this and make it, that there's going to be a lot of surprises in the book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. I like romance comics, and I don't think whether or not it's sci-fi or. I had interviewed Claire Napier about The Magic Necklace, which Claire described that as horror romance, but whether or not there's like a genre that it's combined with, where I think of what I guess Tom King and Elsa is doing with I forgot the name of it, but their current comic, Everlasting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Love Everlasting. Yeah.
Love Everlasting, which is kind of like an odd take on like the older 50s, 60s romance comics. But I don't know. It's just like you see a lot of horror now in science fiction, and I like that it's combined with something else. I think that there's not a lot of like romance comics out there. Like I said, however that's defined, whatever that means to you. So
you kind of have to Trojan horse it in some ways. I mean, and you think about people who've done great with it, like some of your webtoons crowd. Lore Olympus obviously has broken out in a huge way. They mix that with kind of Greek mythology, or Let's Play puts the romance into kind of like a workplace, weird roommate comedy situation. So I think you have to be clever and deft, which is nice. That I think a lot of us have sci-fi ideas and worlds we love to play with. So this is a pretty easy way for people to either bring things to the table or to be interested in kind of the melding of both genres together. It's a very peanut butter and chocolate kind of situation, I think.
Yeah, I'm most interested, like in terms of reading the anthology, to get ideas and concepts that are like different from like the traditional romance. Like, how is somebody else interpreting that? Like, what does that mean to them when they hear that word especially within the sci-fi context? Because sci-fi is probably my favorite genre over the others. So I like to see that, and like to see how it's interpreted. And that's one of the things I'm most looking forward to with reading all these stories. Did you get to work with any of the other teams or talk to them, anybody, in terms of like the types of stories they were working on?
I know for me, I got to talk a little bit to Travis B. Hill about the story he and Matt Guardia were working on together for Dakari, the space pirate. And I won't speak too much for Travis in case he's able to pop in later, but suffice to say, it's a story Travis had done a couple of iterations of before partnering with Matt on it. And I think those two together have a lot of dynamite going on. And probably like similar to Damien's story, it's a first chapter that could lead into a bigger body of work. And it's kind of felicitous that Damien's already had great success with Worlds Away, and now in some ways the Worlds Away audience can come check out Amongst the Stars, and the Amongst the Stars audience can go check out the last Kickstarter for Worlds Away. It's like it's good synchronicity,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
One of the people that I was a huge fan of before that I knew that they were in the anthology was Siegfried. I think it was CJ was talking about him, but I was just so like, I don't know. There's something about it. The colors are very they're just popping. I mean, I literally tweeted to Siegfried and I commented on their most recent post on Instagram saying, hey, one day we're going to collaborate, because it's just, I mean, they're like, a lot of the art that I've seen is just like landscapes, and I can just see what they'll be able to do with creating an entire world or an entire just a universe of anything. So I mean, I was just a huge fan of Siegfried just not way before, because again, I'm relatively new to it, but I was already following them before I knew they were part of the anthology. And they just happen to be, now I'm even more excited to be a part of it because they are on board.
Yeah.
He put a lot of effort into his pitch with Noel, and he submitted a lot of concept art that I've shared a couple of times now. It was really impressive what he put together. I was like, wow, this is just concept art. Like that's really great. Like, so it's always great when I think people take it that seriously when they're submitting something, that they put that little bit of extra effort into it. So yeah, we're pretty amazing artist. I was not familiar with him until he submitted, and then I followed him and I was like, holy crap, like this person is amazing. And then we had some surprise submissions too. Like I think I've said in every podcast that I've done so far, every interview, that when Carolyn Leland submitted with Rachel Suze, I was like, holy crap. Like because I love Money Shot. I think it's one of like the funnier, more adult oriented comics on the stand, with Tim Seeley writing, and Carolyn did an arc on there, and I immediately just gravitated towards her art. And when she submitted, I was like, oh my God, like that's amazing. And felt pretty cool about that. I saw that Richard Pace was thinking of submitting. He tweeted about it, and I was like, oh my God, if Richard Pace submits, how do we not accept that? Like, do we treat him like everybody else, or do we say, well, I think one of the interviewers was like, yeah, how do you tell Richard Pace? Like, it was good, Richard, but not great. Like we're gonna.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty tough call to make.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. So we had some surprises like that, but a lot of people that we kind of knew in the comic book realm. But yeah, a lot of people too since then have had, obviously, Damien with Worlds Away and Ben with Brody coming out with different things. So everybody's kind of had some things that have happened in the year that since they've submitted and been accepted. So it's just nice to see everybody's trajectory and how they're working in comics. So a lot of success stories too.
Yeah. There's a lot of familiar names for me from, interviewing folks with Comic Book Yeti in the anthology. That's one of the great things I like about anthologies in terms of discovering, not only great stories or stories with a perspective that I don't have, but, discovering new writers and artists and letterers and colorists. I mean, that's like the great thing, because there's so many just all in one book. Like, and there's been some really great anthologies over the past, couple of years. So that's pretty awesome.
If I can throw a little kismet out there, one thing that I think CJ, maybe at least, realized pretty early on was that a lot of the stories kind of stumbled upon a similar color approach, if that makes sense. Like there's kind of a like pinks, purples, blues vibe to a lot of the art that makes up the story that wasn't necessarily discussed ahead of time, but seems to fit so well. I think, Miranda, your story is a great example of that. It's got kind of these cool pastel tones in the background, and it seems like there's a little kismet behind it, if that makes sense. I don't know if y'all would agree with that. Perhaps maybe that's
no,
unseen hand of the universe.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and Miranda's concept art was really cool too, and just a really cool page that she pulled together. So yeah, completely agree. Something kind of worked well behind the scenes to kind of make that. And I don't know that we were like even going for that. It just kind of happened where we're like, oh wow, these things really complement each other, and all the art is different yet complementary, and the stories are also different, but yeah, it's come together really well. I put in something too. We said that the curators could submit something if they wanted to. I decided to, and just did a 2-page story with Sid Mills, so that was really fun.
With Sid Mills, like
I did, yeah. It's
yeah,
really
yeah.
fun to do, and it's kind of been like a highlight for me. Like, oh wow! And worked with Taylor Esposito, who's just a fantastic letterer, to try to really pull something good together. And I've never written anything in kind of a prose style, so I really tried to make it work. And I felt really bad covering up Sid's amazing art, but hopefully it's not atrocious, and people will say it's okay. So
I think it's great. Like I think that's part of it too. Was CJ and I started talking about he started talking about Amongst the Stars through DM with me. He started it. He's very always there, and I appreciate it. Because it keeps me honest too. But so we started talking about it, and before we even really saw the art, I was kind of sold, and like he said, like when we wanted to finally get together with him and Elise and talk about it, I told him, I'm like, well, you're going to have to pitch it. I think our minds were made up, but you're going to have to pitch it. But that's like the point where I finally got to see some of the art, and right, like what Ben said, it is really all the stories do have complementary color palettes, and they all come together and look like they should be together, which is wild because it somehow you have all these different people and all these different teams working on it, yet in the end, when everything starts to get assembled and start to look like something, it looks like it's supposed to be there, which is super awesome.
Yeah, it's not a potluck anthology, so to speak. There's a greater cohesiveness.
Yeah. I actually think it was great that it kind of got delayed a little bit, because I think it's created a better avenue for us, because Damien's released things, Miranda has a lot of great art out there. So I feel like everybody, and Band of Bards too, everybody, like I said, that upward trajectory where there's a little bit more of a fan base there established. So I think it was good that we almost said, okay, let's do this right and wait. I mean, Tango is working on quick stops with Kevin Smith. I mean, it's like, get out of here. It's crazy.
Wow.
Like, I just feel like there's some, really cool things happening in the year since we got a lot of people who I wasn't as familiar with maybe, but now I'm like, oh, wow, they're releasing a lot of really cool stuff. Like, I mean, I don't know if everybody's read World's Away or Brody, but they're really, really good comic books. And I just don't say that because these guys are in the anthology. Like, if they sucked, I would say, like, they're not good comics. No, but I'm a very honest person, and I think they're really good comics.
Oh no, Travis is here. I guess I gotta let
him bring him on. Oh, there's the man. Look at the man. There he is.
Welcome,
What's
Travis
up,
B. Hill.
What's up? Y'all can hear
doing?
me? Pretty.
Yeah, we can hear you, Travis.
All right. Well, I'm here in Shreveport. I've been on the road.
Shreveport.
Watching the Mavs lose right now, getting embarrassed. So not great. I see that I see Ben's inviting everybody to the gun show.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. We got our tickets.
I'm intimidated. How's everybody doing? Y'all having a good night?
We're trying.
Man.
Yeah. Okay.
We're hanging in there.
Good.
Now that you've joined us, why don't you tell us about your story?
Sure. Yeah. So it's very interesting. The Kari was a product of, it was the very first comic story I ever got published in anything. Originally, I was on this comic collective group called Ashcan Comics Pub. Y'all might have heard of that. And so what what Ashcan did was they would release this flash fiction anthology every month. And it would be 3 pages of prose, 750 words or less, and 1 page of pinup art. And so there was a group of writers and artists that did this together. And this guy, Nate Lindley, he was the curator, the publisher, and he would release a theme for whatever, and whatever the next anthology theme would be. And then, you know, writers and artists would be in the Discord pairing up. And so he brought, when I first got on the team, they were like 3 or 4 anthologies in. And the very first one up was, the theme was ROFL, Rolling on the Floor Laughing. That was the title. And so I was like eager to just get something published. And I was like, yes, I want to be in. He was like, do you want to be in this one? I was like, yes. But I've never written comedy, anything. So here we go. And so then I wrote this little like buddy space comedy called Jakari, third most famous space pirate in the galaxy. And it's this character who's very obsessed with raising his ranking in this space pirate app called Blaster, but without the E, just the R. And so that's his whole focus. He gets there in the space pirate app, there's these little tasks, and if you complete them, you can raise the ranking and the level of difficulty. So if you like, you know, steal some artifact or jewelry from like an empire or whatever, you know, if you rescue a princess, all these things, they can raise your ranking. So he's on this mission. He's got his sidekick. It's a real Rocket and Groot, Han and Chewie type thing, and they're on this mission to steal this amulet from this kind of evil empire. And he's like, this is the mission that I'm going to go from third to first. And then he sees this princess who's been kidnapped on the ship as well. And he's like, if I can double up, then I'll solidify my spot. And so that's the mission. I originally wrote a version of that story for Ashcan. And then I wrote a second part of it. And it was very funny. And then Nate himself, the publisher of Ashcan, wanted to turn that into like a 60-page comic. And so he started drawing it, and I wrote like kind of an outline, you know, for the first 12 pages or whatever. And he drew the first 5 pages, and then Ashcan kind of fell apart. But the funny thing is, I have now seen Dakari drawn by 4 different artists. So Matt Guido, who's on the anthology Amongst the Stars, is absolutely fantastic, and he's killing the art on that. But I've seen this character develop under different artists over time. So, you know, the first artist, his name was Darius Armstrong. He did a great job designing the characters, but I think Matt has done a very good job of perfecting the characters. And then, of course, Nate drew them. And then most of y'all know Mark Pate, who is the artist on Thorn, my really close friend, longtime collaborator. He drew a very comical pinup for Dakari for the second story. So it's had all these iterations. You know, my hope was to get this first story with Band of Bards out there and then see where it went. Because there have been so many short stories developed for this character, you know, I had talked to Tim over at Band of Bards, like, yo, this anthology hits, and maybe this character and his little adventures that I kind of have outlined elsewhere can have another life outside of the anthology. And, you know, Tim was real receptive to that when we first talked about it. And so I've just had a lot of fun. Zakari's just a goofy kind of, the thing about it is, if anybody has seen Get Smart, you know, the Steve Carell movie, but then also the old TV show, it's a guy who is oddly good at what he does, but there's no reason he should be. He keeps stumbling backwards into success, when really his partner, Czar, is the one he's getting it done. Like, he's the one who's competent. He's the one who knows how to execute the plan, get him out of jam. And Dakari is just making mistakes and falling ass backwards into success. And so that's kind of the premise of it.
Oh, I love that. I love the Get Smart reference. That's perfect.
I hate to interrupt, but I gotta go put my kids to bed.
Oh man!
All right, Chris.
Who all are? All right, Chris. Good to see you.
I just want to express how much I appreciate all of you, and love you all, and all the everything that you all are doing. So, I'm not gonna cry, but have a good rest of your night, and just hey, thank you so much for supporting me and Tim and our idea. And like I said, as long as we're alive and able to do it, we're gonna do our best to keep supporting you guys. So
Awesome.
have a good rest of your night, everybody, and I'll talk to you soon, okay?
All right, thanks for joining us, Chris.
Good
night.
I gotta say, on the topic of Travis's story, real quick, it was real funny. The night that we sent out the last rejection letters, we decided to do that first, and then we were gonna show everybody who got accepted. Travis picked me up and he was like, dude, I didn't see my rejection letter come through. He worded it kind of like that way where he was like, I don't think I'm getting in. And I'm like, well, you didn't see one. What do you think that means? And he goes, oh man, okay. It was real funny. It was real funny because dude, it's great. Like, it's in. And so it was just kind of funny to get that message from him. Like, where the hell's my rejection letter, dude? Like, you said you'd send everybody one, and I didn't get one. But ultimately, it's a fantastic story. We're really lucky to have it in the anthology.
I wanted to ask. I'm always curious about folks. I think I muted Travis. Sorry, Travis. I wanted to ask. I'm always curious about everyone's inspirations for their story. With this with science fiction anthology. Where did you pull some of your ideas from? I don't know what it is. Whenever anyone mentions science fiction or there's a call for a science fiction anthology, I always try and think, how can I rework The Last Starfighter to be in this story? So I'm just curious, what else? What other type of science fiction, that do folks, like any other particular influences? Ben, we've talked before. I already have a picture of Jean-Luc Picard tattooed somewhere on me. I'll show later.
Yes, of course.
Ben's got a great Discord now for Trekkies. It's really fun. Like it's fast becoming my favorite Discord. It's a good time if anybody wants to talk Star Trek.
Oh my gosh, CJ was walking around ECC, and you found this old Star Trek role playing game, and you put it in the Discord, and immediately Brent Fisher's like, scan this and send a copy. Give this information.
Get this for me right now.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. I mean, I think so. Jimmy and I both share a big love for Star Trek that we've already talked about, and CJ shares that as well. And I've annoyed Travis with too much conversation about it on car rides to conventions. I think there's something about that sense of we can get better and we can grow that specific franchise has going on. And I think a little bit of that wove its way into the story that I worked on. I think some of it too was just about a dude who's too shy to tell the girl that he likes her. And then she goes off into space, and then fusion technology causes the world to plunge into an electronic communications blackout. So he's got to overcome a couple of things to share how he feels. And he's also playing with spaceships. When the girl comes around, he puts him down and decides to go study up and become an astronaut. So there's a little bit of real life in there. Not that I play with spaceships in any stretch. I don't do that.
They're just for display. They're not
played
with.
They're collectibles. You all have collectibles, y'all, folks.
Yes.
I won't show you my Lego castle collection. It's insane. I have so many Legos, dude. Yeah.
Oh, sometime though.
Okay. I'll show you. You'll wanna fly in and build something together. It's ridiculous.
Oh heck yes. Oh heck yes. Damien, I see Damien's got some stuff behind him right now. What's that stuff?
Yeah, I got a couple of talking about inspirations. Saga was a huge inspiration on Worlds Away and Higher Calling. And I have the Eye of Agamotto over there. But other than those two, there's so much stuff that I can call back to. One of the biggest inspirations for Worlds Away, just ever since I was 7 or 8 is Final Fantasy. I don't know if you guys are huge Final Fantasy fans. I've been playing Final Fantasy since the PlayStation 1. So all of my stories that I try to kind of come up with, they usually tend to start at one thing, but it always blends into this sci-fi fantasy type thing. But Final Fantasy, Power Rangers, all these different things have got a little bit of influence on my work. And other than that as well, Worlds Away and Higher Calling was always kind of a metaphor for my family. And you'll see when you read it, one of the things that I wanted to do with the romance part was show how relationships aren't perfect. So the two main characters in that story always meant to be my mom and my dad. I don't remember. I'm gonna get a little personal, but I don't remember when my parents were together. So they were never together as far as I can remember. But I wanted to show the thing that kind of always held them together. The one thing that kind of always, yes, the thing that just held them together, and that was whatever. And I'll let you guys read it, whatever that higher calling is. But there was always something that in my life that I always wanted to tell. Was just it's not a direct, I guess it's not a direct carbon copy of what my parents' life was like or how I was growing up or anything like that. They just very much influenced by those two people, my mom and my dad, who are great people. They just were, they had a romance, and and it went from there. Not every one of the things I wanted to show was like not everything works out the way that you want it to be, and not every relationship is perfect, and that was kind of the story I wanted to tell in those pages as well.
Damon.
Yeah, that's great. I
Did,
mean, no, go ahead.
I was going to ask Damon. Damon, did you play Final Fantasy X?
Final Fantasy 7 is number 1. Final Fantasy 10 is number 2 on my list. But I got the that was the first game I got on the PS2.
Me too. Yeah. So Final Fantasy X is it. But my question is, and that's my order too: 7 and then 10, and then
yeah.
I stopped playing it at 12. I think I haven't played 13 or anything. Yeah. Your Blitzball team though, was it good?
Man, I remember. Let me just real quick. I'm sorry. We had I don't know if you guys remember the Prima, the guides, but my brother would play it, and I promise you, I remember telling him that I was the scout for the team, and I would go to the back of the game guide, and I would say, "Hey, there's a good whatever person in this part of the map, so go ahead." But yeah, man, that was the best thing. It felt like so long ago, but I remember it just like it was yesterday. Great stuff.
That's awesome.
Great stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Miranda, I wanted to ask you in terms of some of your influences, especially in science fiction, and with the story implantation. There's the preview page that's on the Kickstarter. I really, really love your character designs, and I was just wondering if there's any particular influences in terms of those, because it's a story that, even like just looking at the first page and the title, I'm not exactly sure, what it's about or where it's going, but I'm just so intrigued about the characters just from, the look of them instantly. And I, as Ben had said before, I think it was Ben, I really love the color palette as well.
Oh, thank you. I love working in a limited color palette. I just, I go online and I have them randomly generated, and I just stick with those. My influences are so much more lame. I just wanted to draw plants for hair. So that's what I did.
That's not lame.
There are so many plants that could be great hair, though. That's
right. Isn't that cool? That was the idea. Was we just Linz and I looked up different kinds of plants, and we're like, this would make cute pigtails, and that's kind of as deep as the character designs went, as far as like their visuals. But then it's kind of a nuanced story about like healing and like opening up over time, which you don't get to see as much on the first page because it's just their first interaction. But a reveal on the second page, which has yet to be drawn, is that the girl who's walking in, actually has a Venus flytrap for hair. So the story is about the hairdresser and her, like, getting a connection, and slowly her Venus flytrap opens, So it's about like trust and overcoming like walls and boundaries. So not as much sci-fi influence in that, as much as I just wanted to get whimsical.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, a big fan of whimsy. I think the world needs more whimsy, whether or not it's in our stories or our fiction or in real life. So
Agreed.
maybe that's just because I'm an attorney that I meet a lot of other attorneys who completely lack it. So so I always look for it.
Miranda, do you find that you're drawn to visual metaphors like that in the other works that you've done? Because it's such a wonderful thing to get to play with, it sounds like.
Yeah, I like to as often as I can, because I think sometimes, like, as valuable as dialogue is, sometimes watching something unfold over a series of pictures can have more of an impact. Maybe that's me though, because I'm a visual thinker. So yeah, as often as I can, I like to do those visual metaphors for sure.
Oh, that's so cool.
That's great. Well, I know I said we'd be about an hour, and I think we're getting pretty close. But I wanted to ask, in terms of the last couple of minutes here, I wanted everyone to get a chance to talk about what else it is that they're working on. I mean, I really like the indie comics community on Twitter, and I like seeing what everyone's doing and trying to support it as best I can. As earlier I showed my copy of Brody Can't Be Broken, which I very much loved, Ben's story. So I know in terms of, I think I'll let you guys say what else it is you're working on, but I know Travis has a couple of things going on. Damien, I think Worlds Away, like 1 to 5 is on Kickstarter right now. And CJ, I know you have a couple of different things as well. So why don't we just go around? We'll start, Damien. So let's start with you, because I really like Worlds Away. So what is it, 1 to 5 on now? Tell me about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's Worlds Away 1 through 4, and it is the end of the first arc. If we're lucky enough to make more, or if there's an interest in more, then yeah, we'll probably do 5, 6, 7, 8 eventually. But if you guys are interested in that, you can go to worldsawaycomic.com. That'll take you directly to the Kickstarter. I think we're at the moment we're 83% funded. I think we need about like $800 more, and then we'll reach our goal of 4,500. But that's the biggest thing that I'm working on. I do have a few more stories in the works. I do want to give a shout out to CJ and everyone here. Vidya, it's great. I know Thorn's coming out, Brody, Miranda, your work looks great as well. But yeah, worldsawaycomic.com. It'll take you to straight to the Kickstarter. If you do choose to pledge, that would be great. It would be greatly appreciated. And thank you, Jimmy, for having us on.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. I love talking to people. And so this has been nice. So Ben, Brody Can't Be Broken with Band of Bards just came out fairly recently. Working on anything else right now that you can tell the folks about?
Yeah, there's a little overlap. I've got a couple of anthology stories in the hopper. Travis and I both have a story coming up in another Kickstarter called Fractured Realms. It's a Norse horror anthology piece that's going right now. And then I've also got a short story that's coming out in Critical Mass from Odyssey Comics that comes out later in May on Kickstarter. We'll start there. And then Travis and I have a little long-term plan, something cooked up, which we hope to reveal more details about, as circumstances permit. But suffice to say, we'd worked on a short post-apocalyptic story together that we're hoping to elaborate a little bit on here. So hopefully we'll be able to let you know more about that as the circumstances align for that. But
all right.
Yeah, that's cool.
Nice.
Got to collaborate with your friends. CJ and I
Yeah.
committed a long time ago to do a 10-page story that is a sewer adventure that I also owe him. So I need to commit something to Damien and to Miranda, and then we'll be good. We'll be all
You'll have everything. Yeah, you'll have the whole team.
Yeah, then you'll have everybody.
Right.
So Travis, I know you have a couple of things coming out.
Like 11, I feel like.
Yeah,
it's like 11 things.
A lot. I mean, you go. I mean, there's Techno Nights with Dauntless and Thorn and Gun, but I really like everything I've read from yours. I really like how you tell stories. And so I'm looking forward to the stuff you have coming out, but they're tired of listening to me. Go ahead. What do you have coming out?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. I'm so glad you said like Techno Knights and Thorn because my mic dropped and I had no idea who you're talking to. So
Oh,
you
okay.
cut back up. It came back in. Sorry about that. Yeah. So Techno Knights book 1 is Marcus is getting in the Prince. That's a Super Sentai kind of love letter to Power Rangers and my Ninja Turtles and my brothers. I kind of base the characters off of me and my 3 brothers, and just some of our interactions as we've grown up and just approach our upbringing differently and think about it. And so it's a story about kind of a return to like what happens when the Power Rangers grow up and realize, hey, like we were kind of recruited as child soldiers. Did we really like that? Do we want to commit to that again now that people might need us? Like we're old. Like what does this mean? And so and then Thorn is coming out this summer. It's a 12-issue series that has a fantastic. First off, Techno Knights, Marcus Humeniuk is just. I mean, I can't wait for everybody to get the book because the art is fantastic. Every page I get, I mean, level up, level up, level up. So I'm so excited for people to see that, especially the way he does action and sci-fi action. It's big and it's cinematic and it's great. Thorn is a vigilante story that kind of looks at systemic injustice in minority neighborhoods, and so kind of asks like what type of hero arises when the system is just completely against you and kind of your community. And so we've got a fantastic creative team. Mark Pate on the art, Sheldon Allen, who did Concrete Jungle, and he's got a couple other books for Scout, Snatched. He's got some great books. We've got a couple other ones coming out that I've gotten to read, but probably can't say anything about yet. But yeah, Sheldon Allen has come on as a script consultant on the first couple issues, but he's going to jump on as a co-writer in the second arc. And then Razul Berry, who is a podcaster and film producer out of New York. He's come on as the editor, and he has just provided great feedback. And so this team is really putting together a great book. And then, of course, Advent taking a chance on it and adding it to their universe has just been a blessing. So that the 0 issue is in shops for free comic book day. And as of right now, we're trying to figure out the release date for issue 1. Advent's trying to stagger some of its books at the LCS. So it's been kind of bumped around, but it looks like July is what we're looking at for issue 1. It's a 12-issue series that'll come out bi-monthly, every other month for about 2 years. That's the plan. I have a one-shot coming out with Z2 in like a couple months. I don't think it's in shops. It's going to be partnered with an album release for the artist that we worked with. It was a lot of fun. Superhero book, very, very enjoyable. Anthony Pugh is on the art, and he's just killing it. I just got a cover from Butch Mappa, and it's awesome. So that's a lot of fun. And then all these anthologies trying to get funded right now. Amongst the Stars, Fugitive Poems, Containment Breach Volume 3 just funded. So I have a short story in that, and then Fractured Realms, so that I know Ben is in. So that's it right now. Oh, also, I don't know if Ben said this because my mic cut out, but Ben, did you talk about Last Goodbye?
Yeah. I talked about how that's
Okay.
that's something we're working on, and more to come as we can share a little bit about it. But that'll be the next kind of big thing. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah,
So,
I think I remember reading
what?
Yeah, I think I remember reading the shorter version of Last Goodbye when it was out. And I really liked that. So excited to look for more.
Yeah, we added to the middle. That's the beginning and end is the same, but we added some like mutated vampire type people, some mutant monsters, and a hero that it murders. Is just on a murder spree with a spear. So
I said to Travis, I was like, can we make it 40 pages? Can we make it square bound? Can you make us have some crazy stuff to draw? And then I got the script and I was like, yes. This is everything. This is everything we wanted.
Half the time in the script, I'm like, hey, look at Daniel Warren Johnson on Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, and Murder Falcon, and Ghost Fleet, and you'll know exactly what I'm going for in this book. And he was like, all right, sounds good.
Oh, Murder Falcon, that's just one of my favorite stories,
Oh, it's
graphic
so good.
novels. Murder
So good.
Falcon's so good.
Yeah.
Miranda,
It,
is there anything you're working on? I mean, that you can talk about?
Yeah, there's a couple things. I think I can say now, I'm working on this futuristic sci-fi story. It's a Rapunzel story called Locked, Locd. I think it's coming out this summer, but everything's TBD. But I think I can announce that it exists.
Okay.
Okay, great.
So more on that will come to my Twitter.
Mhm.
And besides that, I just been doing a lot of like character art for TTRPG communities. So if anyone wants to check out the last 3 Roll20 streams on YouTube, I did all the character art for those.
Oh wow.
And
Sweet.
Oh,
that's
wow.
basically it. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely have to check those out. And then, CJ, I didn't forget about you. What, what other stuff do you have coming out? I know you just had a Kickstarter, right? And you have, Vigia and a couple other things, right?
Yeah, it's been kind of a crazy year where like I didn't have anything for 2 years, just kind of like Interstellar Dust. My first series came out in 2020, and then some anthology stuff, and then just kind of got lucky having some things hit in 2023. So yeah, I've got a couple of series in the works with Band of Bards. Vigia's out right now. I got Lycan coming out later this month. I continue to do work with Antarctic Press with Interstellar Dust, my sci-fi adult comedy series about a bunch of aliens that escape a prison and kind of run amok in the galaxy. So I'm working on the second arc for that right now, and Antarctic Press is doing a trade paperback of the first volume, so that'll be out in April. And then doing some work for hire stuff. I still continue to do work for Ad Astra Media, writing their webtoon for them, Intergalactic Academy, and I'm doing some work for Woven Press, working on a mixed martial arts comic for them. So yeah, so I've got some things that are kind of staggered. Hopefully, like some things don't come out until next year, because I'm like, oh god, I'm not going to have anything to show like next year. I'm going to be like a supernova, release all these things, and then people are going to be like, oh, what happened to that guy? He doesn't have anything more to show. So yeah, there's that, and then a couple of Band of Bards that are coming out at some point that we've been talking about. I have a 4-series deal with them that we're like halfway through right now. So yeah, just kind of working through some things, anthologies, but Amongst the Stars as the curator is my primary focus right now. I'm not trying to share a lot of other things until I can get this thing across the finish line. Like I'm really would like people to go out and support it. I think they will be really impressed with the talent that's in the anthology. There's just tremendous writing talent, fantastic artists. Like it's really been a dream project to pull together. I don't know that I'll ever curate an anthology again. It's been very stressful to try to do this. And it has its own challenges, but I can at least have that checked off to say, wow, like we pulled this together, and when it funds, it's going to be amazing. So please go out, support it, and support all these guys and their individual projects too. They've just really done a lot of great stuff. I'm looking forward to working with Ben at some point. And no pressure, dude. We're gonna figure it out at some point. Like
we're gonna find the schedule. Yes.
Yeah, I know that I'm going to hit up Miranda at some point for cover and character design work. Like it's in my deck, and I'm sure that I might even write like a huge story with Damien and Travis at some point. Maybe we'll just create our own universe or something. And so I'm looking forward to working with these guys outside of Amongst the Stars too. They're just really good people and tremendous talents. And Jimmy, your story was really good too. I know you're giving me crap online for not getting it was really good, and you made it to that final round. So there you go. Remember that.
I know. I didn't give you crap online. I made a joke about 27 dresses.
yeah. You said something right when the rejection letters went out, like giving me like I don't know talent when I said no, I'm just kidding. But you
I did.
Really great.
This is terrible. I don't know why I even do this. Invite people on.
You had a great story, and so it just shows that there was a lot of good stuff in there. Wells Thompson, he had a great story too. Like and support Mechaton.
I mean, look,
online on Kickstarter. That's a good one too.
for anyone, listening, and, I'm not telling you guys anything, you don't know, but rejection's part of this. I mean, that's it, especially with anthologies. It's it happens. You see every time there's a open call for an anthology, it's 100 or 200 submissions, and like Amongst the Stars has 14, or whether or not it's Containment Breach or Fractured Realms or any of the other, Hairology, any of the other recent anthologies. Rejection is just part of it, and you just gotta, take your shot, tell your story, and that's it.
And if you're lucky,
gotta keep going.
If you're lucky, you can save your pitch for a rainy day, and maybe the right opportunity comes along, and it has something to do.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Or just make it yourself and put it out there so somebody, just somebody reads it. Just throw it out online. Ben and I will finally do our Star Trek Kevin Uxbridge fan comic.
No lie, we're probably going to do a bootleg Star Trek zine at some point, and that's going to be the anchor piece. It'll be so good.
I love it. Yeah. It's
no,
true. Like 50% for me for anthologies. Like, don't give up. Keep going. If you don't get in, like, I feel like Damien gets in every anthology, and so does Travis. So I'm a little jealous. Like, they're always in everything.
Nope, that's not true. No.
I'll say on that point, I think I got rejected for my first 20 anthology submissions, and now I'm finally like making it.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
But can I say? So two things. First, like if you're listening and you haven't looked at Amongst the Stars, I know I jumped on late and people have already talked about it, but the art is gorgeous on this book. If that hasn't been said, or if it needs to be said again, doesn't matter. The art is gorgeous. Please check out the Kickstarter. You will, and just scroll through. You will see amazing art. And secondly, about that is that Band of Bards, TJ, Elise, they have gone above and beyond to try and make sure that the artists on the book are being well taken care of as far as like getting paid for this and page rates. And so it's not just, one, you're going to get great stories with beautiful art, and you're going to make sure it's going to be getting, the artists' jobs. And I think that's great. And then last thing, Jimmy, what are you working on?
Yes.
This I'm talking to people. No, I have me and an artist, James Greatorex, who's he works at the comic book shop down the street. We're going to be in an anthology coming to Kickstarter this year, Comics from the Kitchen. And then
Warren Press.
And then I'm working on an anthology story right now with Joe Kovis, which I think Buddy Bedoin is going to letter, which is like a grindhouse horror, which I think will be on Kickstarter later this year. And then my co-host and I, Byron, and I co-wrote a story that I don't want to say who the artist is on it yet, but it's like an 8-page comic that's going to come to an anthology later on this year as well, which is kind of like a historical eldritch horror, if I had to describe it. So so just a couple of things.
You're gonna write some spaghetti monster, elder gods in there.
Some spaghetti monsters, a lot of tentacles and things, all that good stuff. So, and then this, talking to people, Comic Book Yeti, we just had our 100th podcast episode, so that was pretty cool. And so thank you for asking. That was very nice. But look, the one thing I want to say is we talk a lot in indie comics. I've heard it said before about folks like we're just kind of like passing the same like couple of bucks around with indie comics people. But one of the things that I always encourage everyone, especially if it's a crowdfunded anthology, is usually it's not a super high price point. You're going to get 14 stories with Amongst the Stars, as Travis said, as others have echoed, gorgeous artwork. And there's going to be something that you like in there. This is the perfect opportunity for somebody who, what are you into? Oh, I'm into comics. Really? Like, you're into comics? Like, do they still make those? And they're not just, they're all superheroes and what DC and Marvel and whatever, but there's so many different types of stories. It's the perfect opportunity for someone that is like always been why are you still reading these or working on these? And an anthology like this is the perfect opportunity to get somebody involved, and they're going to find something in there that they like, they can relate to, that says something to them, or worst case scenario, it just entertains them. So I always think a comics anthology like this is the perfect opportunity to get more people involved in reading comics. So that's my pitch for comics. Yay,
That's
comics.
a good pitch.
Well said.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I really appreciate everyone coming on, talking about Amongst the Stars, and we'll have this recorded on, and it'll be on Comic Book Yeti's YouTube, so you can share it around so folks can find out what Amongst the Stars is all about. I think there's like 8 or 9 days left in the Kickstarter, and we want to make sure that this gets funded. Because yes, CJ and Elisa are making sure the artists, the creators are getting taken care of in this. And it's really good storytelling from some folks in indie comics that you're going to be hearing more and more and more about, because everyone here in this anthology is doing other things, other projects. And yeah, I think you should check it out, and you should back it, and then come back and tell me I'm right, because I am.
Yeah.
But anyway, I no, but in all seriousness, I really appreciate everyone being here. Thank Chris, who had to leave a little early, but thank you, CJ, for kind of wrangling all the folks together for this, and thank you, Miranda and Damien and Ben and Travis. So I wish the anthology the best of luck. I'll be tweeting about it and rooting for it, because I want to read these stories. I want to read them.
Yeah.
So in any event, for Comic Book Yeti, I'm Jimmy Gasparo, and this has been another live stream. And if you like this, maybe I'll do it more, and we'll have more of these. It'll be fun. Join in.
I think
Tune
it's
in.
really fun to have a lot of people on to chat about stuff. So yeah, this was cool, because I'm used to just doing it by myself or maybe with one other person. So this is fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we get to make jokes about each other and stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And Ben has that Avalon, New Jersey tank on that I love.
Cape May County, what's up? Got my inner Guido.
All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.